My name is Alicia, and at 35 years old, I finally earned my master's degree after 5 grueling years of night classes working full-time and raising 2 children. I should have been proud standing on that stage, but all I could see were 5 empty seats in the audience reserved for the family who never showed. I clutched my diploma surrounded by celebrating graduates yet completely alone. My achievement meant everything to me but apparently nothing to them. The real gut punch came after the ceremony when my phone lit up with an urgent message from my husband. If you have ever felt betrayed by the people who should have been your biggest supporters, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to join a community who understands that family disappointment cuts deeper than any other pain. For the past 12 years, I had been married to Nathan, a 37-year-old software developer with a stable job at a tech company in Seattle. Together, we had 2 children, Ethan, our 14-year-old son who was going through that typical teenage phase of finding his parents embarrassing, and Sophia, our bright 11-year-old daughter who was becoming increasingly interested in her social life. We lived in a modest 4-bedroom house in the suburbs, not too flashy, but comfortable enough with a small backyard where the kids could play during the rare sunny days our city offered. I worked at Franklin Financial Services, a mid-sized investment firm where I had been employed for nearly 9 years. My job as a financial analyst was demanding, often requiring 50-plus hours per week, especially during tax season or when major clients needed reports. I was good at what I did, precise with numbers and patient with difficult clients, but year after year, I watched as my male colleagues with less experience got promoted ahead of me. "You need more credentials," my boss would say during my performance reviews. "A bachelor's degree in finance is great, but everyone has that. If you want to move up to senior management, you need a master's." After the 3rd time being passed over for promotion, I made up my mind. I would get that master's degree in business administration no matter what it took. The university across town offered evening classes designed for working professionals. It would take 5 years of part-time study, but I figured it was worth the investment in my future. What I did not fully anticipate was how punishing the schedule would be. I would wake up at 5:30 a.m. to prepare breakfast for the family and pack lunches for the kids. Then I would work a full-day rush to class 3 evenings a week from 6 to 9 p.m. and come home exhausted to find dishes in the sink and homework that still needed checking. On the weekends, instead of relaxing, I would lock myself in our home office for hours to complete assignments while Nathan took the kids to soccer games or birthday parties. "Mom is always studying." I once overheard Ethan complain to his father, "She never has time for us anymore." Those words stung, but I tried to rationalize it. This was temporary. This was for our future. Once I had my degree and the promotion that would follow, we would have more financial stability, maybe even enough for that family vacation to Disney World the kids had been begging for. My relationship with my brother, Derek, complicated things further. 3 years older than me at 38, Derek had always been the golden child in our family. He ran a successful real estate business, lived in a waterfront property, and as a bachelor with no children, enjoyed the freedom to travel extensively and indulge in expensive hobbies like sailing and wine collecting. Our parents, who lived 2 states away in California, never tried to hide their preference for him. When we were growing up, they attended every one of his football games but frequently missed my academic competitions. As adults, they would drop everything to help Derek renovate his kitchen, but would find excuses when I needed someone to watch the kids during my final exams. "Your brother is just more fun to be around," my mother once told me after I confronted her about this imbalance. "You are always so serious and busy with your responsibilities." The irony was not lost on me that being responsible was somehow being held against me. Despite these frustrations, I persevered with my studies. I wrote papers after the kids went to bed, often staying up until 1 or 2 in the morning. I studied flashcards during my lunch breaks. I sacrificed vacations using that time to get ahead on coursework instead. When friends invited us to parties or weekend getaways, I usually declined knowing I needed those hours for school. Nathan was supportive at first, picking up some of the slack at home and encouraging me when I felt overwhelmed. But as the years dragged on, his patience began to wear thin. "How much longer is this going to take?" he would ask. "The kids barely see you anymore." "Just 2 more years, I would assure him. "Then 1 more year. Then just a few more months." By the time my graduation finally approached, our marriage was strained. We still loved each other, but the distance between us had grown. Nathan had developed his own routines and social circles, often taking the kids to community events or to visit his parents without me. I had missed so many family dinners, school performances, and weekend outings that it had become normal for them to function without me, which is why the graduation ceremony meant so much to me. It was not just about the degree or the career advancement opportunities it would bring. It was a chance to show my family, especially my children, that all those sacrifices had been for something meaningful. I wanted them to see me walk across that stage, to feel proud of their mother, to understand that women could pursue education at any stage of life. I wanted that moment of recognition, that collective celebration that would make the past 5 years of exhaustion worthwhile. When I graduate, I told Nathan about 6 months before the end of my program, I want everyone there. You, the kids, my parents, even my sister Melissa from Phoenix. This is going to be a big day for all of us. He had nodded and squeezed my hand. Of course, babe. We would not miss it for the world. How hollow those words would eventually sound. 6 months before my graduation ceremony, I began planning meticulously for what I envisioned would be one of the most important days of my life. The university had sent an email with all the details, including the limited number of guest tickets each graduate would receive. I immediately requested the maximum allocation of 6 tickets, 1 each, for Nathan, Ethan, Sophia, my mom, my dad, and my sister Melissa. I called my parents in California to give them the date, which they dutifully wrote down on their calendar. We will try our best to make it, sweetie, my mother said in a tone that suggested she was already considering what might be more important. Still, I remained optimistic. This was my graduation after all. Surely, they would prioritize it. Next, I reached out to Melissa, who lived in Phoenix with her husband and 3 children. Unlike our parents, she seemed genuinely excited for me. I am so proud of you, sis, she said. Working full-time, raising kids, and getting a master's degree, you are superwoman. I will book my flight next week. With family attendance seemingly secured, I turned my attention to the celebration afterward. I researched restaurants near the university and found a highly rated Italian place called Bellissimo that could accommodate our party of 8. It was expensive, nearly $300 for the reservation, but this was a once-in-a-lifetime occasion. I put down the deposit without hesitation. Since my parents would be traveling from out of state, I also booked them a hotel room at the Marriott downtown using points I had accumulated through business trips. Everything was falling into place, and for once, I allowed myself to feel excitement rather than stress when thinking about school. 2 months before graduation, I splurged on a new dress. A sophisticated navy blue sheath with subtle lace detailing that would look appropriate under my graduation gown, but beautiful for the dinner afterward. I scheduled appointments for hair, makeup, and a manicure on the morning of the ceremony. These were luxuries. I rarely indulged in always putting family expenses first, but I wanted to look and feel my best on this day. Mom, you look pretty, Sophia said when I tried on the dress at home. Like when you and Dad got married in those pictures. Her comment brought tears to my eyes. I could not remember the last time I had dressed up for anything other than a work function. The daily grind of juggling responsibilities had left little time for personal vanity. 3 weeks before graduation, the first hint of trouble appeared. Derek called to catch up something he did sporadically when he remembered he had a sister. After asking perfunctory questions about my studies, he dropped a bombshell. By the way, I am throwing a massive barbecue at my place on May 15th. I just installed a new outdoor kitchen and want to break it in. You guys should come. The kids would love the pool. My stomach dropped. Derek, that is my graduation day. I told everyone months ago. There was a pause on the line. Oh, right. I forgot about that. Can you change your barbecue to another weekend? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. Not really, he replied, sounding unconcerned. I have already invited, 30 people, including clients who are only in town that weekend. But, hey, when does your ceremony end? Maybe you can stop by afterward. I felt my blood pressure rising. The ceremony is at 2 p.m. and will probably go until 5, then we have dinner reservations. But that is not the point. My family is supposed to be at my graduation. Come on, Alicia, Derek said with that dismissive tone he had perfected since childhood. It is just a graduation. You already had one for your bachelor's degree. This is just a piece of paper saying you took some extra classes. I was speechless. Just a piece of paper. 5 years of sacrifice reduced to some extra classes before I could formulate a response that was not purely profanity, Derek continued. Look, Mom and Dad are coming to my barbecue. They already confirmed. And they are bringing Aunt Susan and Uncle Joe, who are visiting from Florida. You know how rarely we see them. Now I was truly seeing red. You told Mom and Dad about your barbecue before checking with me about the date. Even though you knew my graduation was coming up, I did not realize it was such a big deal, he said defensively. You are 35, not 22. It is not like this is your first rodeo. We argued for another 10 minutes, with Derek refusing to budge and me growing increasingly upset. By the time I hung up, I was shaking with anger and fighting back tears. I immediately called my mother, hoping she would see reason and prioritize my graduation. Mom, Derek scheduled a barbecue on my graduation day. You cannot go to that instead. Her response was infuriatingly diplomatic. Oh dear, what bad timing. Cannot you both reschedule? No, Mom, the university does not change commencement dates for individuals. This has been planned for a year. I told you about it 6 months ago. Well, it is just so difficult, she sighed. Your aunt and uncle will be here from Florida, and you know your father loves Derek's barbecues. Cannot we come to both? The conversation went downhill from there, with my mother suggesting I was being selfish for not understanding the family's desire to attend both events, as if that were physically possible with the timing and distance involved. That evening, I tearfully recounted the conversation to Nathan, expecting his unwavering support. He listened attentively, rubbing my back as I expressed my hurt and disappointment. Your family has always been like this, he said soothingly. But, hey, you will still have us there cheering you on. Me and the kids will be your fan club. That is what really matters. Right? His words calmed me somewhat. He was right. As long as my immediate family, my husband, and children were there to support me, I could handle my parents' predictable preference for Derek. After all, Nathan and the kids had witnessed the daily struggle, the late nights, the stress, headaches, the missed family events. They understood what this achievement meant to me. Promise me you three will be there, I said, looking into his eyes. No matter what. I promise, Nathan replied, kissing my forehead. Nothing could keep us away. I wanted desperately to believe him. The day before graduation arrived with a flurry of last-minute preparations. I picked up my cap and gown from the university bookstore, carefully hanging them in our bedroom. I polished my best shoes, a pair of black pumps that were professional yet comfortable enough to walk across a stage without stumbling. I charged my phone and camera to ensure I could capture plenty of memories. My excitement was tinged with anxiety. Despite Nathan's assurances, I could not shake the feeling that something would go wrong. I had received a formal email from my parents 2 days earlier explaining in overly polite language that they would be attending Derek's barbecue instead of my graduation. They promised to take me to dinner the next time they were in town to celebrate. I had read the email once, then deleted it without responding. Melissa had also backed out, calling with genuine regret in her voice to explain that her youngest had come down with chickenpox, making travel impossible. I understood her situation completely, but it still added to my growing sense of abandonment. At least I still have you three, I said to Nathan as we prepared dinner that evening. He nodded distractedly, focused on his phone. I noticed he had been texting frequently throughout the day, but thought nothing of it until my own phone rang. It was my mother. Alicia, I just wanted to call and see if the kids are still coming to Derek's tomorrow. He is setting up games for all the children, and Sophia and Ethan are on his list. I nearly dropped the pot of pasta I was draining. What? No, Mom? The kids are coming to my graduation. With Nathan? Oh, she sounded confused. Derek said Nathan mentioned bringing them to the barbecue. There will be several families there with children their age, and Derek hired a lifeguard for the pool. They would have much more fun than sitting through a long ceremony. My hands were shaking as I sat down the pot and stepped away from the stove. I looked at Nathan, who was suddenly very interested in chopping vegetables. Mom, I need to go, I said abruptly and ended the call. The silence in the kitchen was deafening until I broke it. Nathan, why does my mother think you and the kids are going to Derek's barbecue tomorrow? He would not meet my eyes. I might have mentioned to Derek that the kids were asking about the party. They heard about the pool and the games from their cousins, and you told him you were bringing them without discussing it with me first? Nathan finally looked up, his expression a mixture of guilt and defiance. Alicia, be reasonable. The ceremony is going to be 3 hours of sitting quietly while hundreds of names are called. The kids will be bored out of their minds. So instead of teaching them about supporting family and celebrating achievements, you are teaching them that fun always comes first. My voice was rising despite my efforts to stay calm. This graduation represents 5 years of sacrificing time with them to build a better future for us. Do you not think it is important for them to see that hard work pays off? Nathan sighed heavily. Of course, I do. But the kids really want to go to the barbecue. Ethan has been talking non-stop about swimming with his cousins, and Sophia heard that her friend Jasmine from soccer will be there. Derek invited her whole family. So what are you saying? I asked though. I already knew the answer. That you want to take our children to a barbecue instead of watching their mother graduate with honors. Cannot we compromise? Nathan suggested, his tone irritatingly reasonable. Maybe I take the kids to the barbecue and we meet you at the restaurant afterward to celebrate. Or I could come to the ceremony alone and pick you up after dropping the kids at Derek's. I stared at him in disbelief. Do you hear yourself? This is not about negotiating a business deal. This is about being there for me on one of the most important days of my life. You are being dramatic, Nathan muttered. It is just a graduation ceremony. Just a graduation ceremony. The exact words Derek had used, as if my accomplishment was trivial, a minor inconvenience in their social calendars. 5 years, Nathan, I said, my voice quivering. 5 years of missing bedtimes, of studying until 2 a.m., of using every vacation day for exams instead of family trips. 5 years of you complaining about my absence, of the kids feeling neglected, of me carrying guilt on top of exhaustion. And now that it is finally over, now that I want one day, Just one single day of recognition and support. You are all too busy with a barbecue. The kids should be able to decide for themselves, he countered. They are 14 and 11. Of course, they would choose a pool party over a graduation ceremony. That is why parents make decisions based on values, not on what is more fun. The argument escalated from there. Ethan and Sophia came downstairs drawn by our raised voices. When they realized what we were fighting about, they predictably sided with their father Ethan, declaring that only nerds care about graduation ceremonies, and Sophia tearfully asking why I wanted to ruin their fun. I went to bed that night without eating dinner, too upset to stomach food. Nathan slept on the couch, a rare occurrence in our marriage. As I lay awake staring at the ceiling, I wondered how we had reached this point. How had my family become so disconnected from my life, so dismissive of my achievements? The irony was painful. I had pursued this degree primarily for them to provide a better lifestyle, to be a role model of determination, yet they could not give me a single afternoon of support in return. I cried silently into my pillow, mourning not just tomorrow's inevitable disappointment, but something deeper, a fundamental misalignment in how my family and I valued each other's lives. Sleep evaded me until the early hours of the morning. My graduation outfit hanging like a ghost in the corner of the bedroom, a symbol of tomorrow's empty celebration. I woke up disoriented after just a few hours of restless sleep. For a moment, I forgot about the previous night's argument, my mind automatically shifting into graduation day excitement. Then reality crashed back and I reached across the bed to find Nathan's side empty and cold. Dragging myself to the bathroom, I splashed cold water on my puffy eyes and tried to summon some enthusiasm. This was still my day, my achievement. I would not let their absence ruin it completely. Downstairs, the house was eerily quiet. No sounds of breakfast being made, no television cartoons, no bickering children. On the kitchen counter sat a hastily scrawled note. Took the kids to Derek's early to help set up. We'll try to make it back for your ceremony. Congratulations, Nathan. The note felt like a physical blow. Not even a proper goodbye, just an afterthought. I crumpled it and threw it in the trash, then made myself a cup of coffee with trembling hands. The clock read 9:30 a.m. My hair appointment was at 10, followed by makeup at 11. The ceremony began at 2 p.m. with graduates required to arrive by 1 for lineup and instructions. Despite the hollow feeling in my chest, I forced myself to follow the day's schedule. The hairstylist commented on my subdued mood but professionally avoided prying when I did not engage in the usual salon chit-chat. The makeup artist did her best to conceal my swollen eyes and pale complexion, creating a polished look that contrasted sharply with my inner turmoil. Back home, I carefully put on my new dress, straightened the cap on my newly styled hair, and adjusted the gown zipper. I took a selfie in the full-length mirror, trying to smile, trying to feel something beyond the hurt. I posted it to social media with a caption about achieving goals and tagged my family members out of habit or perhaps spite. The congratulatory comments began immediately. Co-workers, distant relatives, old high school friends, all expressing pride and excitement. Everyone except those who mattered most. I texted Nathan before leaving the house. I'm heading to the ceremony now. Are you still planning to come? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. Finally, Ethan took a bad fall while running around the pool. Nothing serious, but lots of tears. Might be late. Save us seats if you can. I did not bother responding. Seats were assigned by graduate name with family seating general admission. There were no seats to save. Nathan knew this, had read the information packet I had left prominently on the kitchen counter for weeks. His message was just another flimsy excuse, another way to soften the blow of their impending absence. The drive to the university was a blur. I parked in the crowded garage and made my way to the auditorium where graduates were gathering. Around me, fellow students greeted family members, posed for photos, received flowers and hugs. I kept my head down, focusing on finding my place in the alphabetical lineup. My phone buzzed with messages of encouragement from Linda, my closest work friend, and from Professor Jenkins, my favorite instructor who had written my recommendation letter for a senior analyst position I had applied for. Their words were kind but only emphasized the silence from my family. The graduates processed into the main hall to pomp and circumstance, an ocean of identical black gowns and square caps. From the stage, I scanned the audience irrationally, hoping to spot Nathan and the kids slipping in late. The ceremony began with speeches from the university president, the dean, and a successful alumna who spoke about perseverance and work-life balance, words that felt like they were directed specifically at me. When my department was called, I rose with my row and waited for my name. In those moments of anticipation, I made a decision. I would enjoy this moment for myself, not for anyone else. I had earned this. Alicia Marie Williams, Master of Business Administration with honors. I walked across the stage with my head high, shook the dean's hand, accepted my diploma case, and moved the tassel on my cap from right to left. There was polite applause, the same as for every other graduate. No distinctive cheers, no special whistles or calls of my name, just the anonymous recognition of strangers witnessing another stranger's milestone. After returning to my seat, I felt oddly calm. The hurt was still there, but it had crystallized into something harder, something that felt like resolve. I sat through the remainder of the ceremony in a detached state, clapping automatically for my fellow graduates, while my mind wandered to what would come next, how I would address this betrayal with my family, what it meant for my marriage, for my relationship with my children, for my sense of self-worth. When the ceremony ended, graduates flooded the lawn outside for the traditional cap tossing and photos. I stood awkwardly at the periphery watching families reunite, flowers exchange, champagne bottles popped. I took a few obligatory photos with classmates I had studied with but felt like an imposter in their joy. I checked my phone obsessively. No messages from Nathan. No calls from the kids. Nothing from my parents or Derek. I scrolled through social media and saw that Derek had posted photos of his barbecue tagging my parents, Nathan, and the children. They were all smiling, gathered around a fire pit roasting marshmallows. The timestamp showed it had been posted 30 minutes ago, right in the middle of my graduation ceremony. Something broke inside me then. A dam of emotions I had been holding back all day. I found a quiet corner behind the science building and let myself cry ugly, heaving sobs that smeared my carefully applied makeup and left me gasping for breath. When I finally composed myself, I decided to cancel the restaurant reservation. There was no point in keeping it now. As I pulled up the restaurant's number on my phone, a text message appeared from Nathan. "We need to talk urgently." Immediately afterward, I noticed something that sent a chill through me. 45 missed calls from Nathan, all within the past hour. My heart rate doubled instantly. 45 missed calls could only mean an emergency. Had something happened to one of the kids? To my parents? Had there been an accident? I had silenced my phone during the ceremony as requested by the university. In my emotional state afterward, I had not thought to check for missed calls, only messages. With shaking fingers, I called Nathan back. He answered on the first ring. "Alicia." Thank God his voice was high-pitched with panic. "I have been trying to reach you for over an hour." "What happened?" I demanded, already walking quickly toward the parking garage. "Is everyone okay?" "It is Ethan," Nathan said, his words tumbling out in a rush. He was climbing on that ridiculous new water slide Derek installed, showing off for his cousins, and he fell. "We are at Memorial Hospital. The doctor thinks his arm is broken." "I will be right there," I said, breaking into a run despite my heels. "Is he in a lot of pain? How bad is it?" "They gave him something for the pain, but he is pretty shaken up. He keeps asking for you." That last part sent a wave of conflicting emotions through me. On one hand, my maternal instinct kicked in immediately, desperate to reach my injured child. On the other, a small bitter voice in my head noted that now suddenly my presence was essential. I drove to the hospital in a state of heightened anxiety, alternating between concern for Ethan and residual anger at the entire situation. The graduation gown lay crumpled in my passenger seat, the cap tossed carelessly in the back. My diploma case sat unopened on the dashboard. Memorial Hospital was only 15 minutes from campus, but the drive felt interminable. I found parking in the emergency lot and rushed inside, still wearing my navy blue dress, my carefully styled hair now falling loose around my shoulders. The emergency room was busy with the typical Saturday afternoon cases. I gave Ethan's name at the reception desk and was directed to Bay 7. Drawing back the curtain, I found a scene that stopped me in my tracks. Ethan lay on the bed, his right arm encased in a temporary splint, his face tear-stained but calm. Around him stood not just Nathan and Sophia, but my parents, Derek, and a doctor reviewing some x-rays. They all turned to look at me as I entered, expressions ranging from relief to guilt to something that looked uncomfortably like pity. "Mom," Ethan called out, his voice small and childlike despite his teenage status. "You came." I moved immediately to his side, maternal instinct overriding everything else. "Of course, I came, sweetheart. How are you feeling? What happened?" As I smoothed his hair back from his forehead, the doctor approached and introduced himself as Dr. Ramirez. "Your son has a simple fracture of the radius," he explained, pointing to the x-ray. "Painful but straightforward. We will put a cast on it and he should heal completely in about 6 weeks." I nodded gratefully, relief washing over me. A broken arm was serious but manageable. Not life-threatening. Not permanent. "He was very brave," my mother interjected, patting Ethan's leg. "Barely cried at all after the initial shock." I acknowledged her with a tight smile, but could not bring myself to engage further. The fact that they were all here gathered around my son when they could not be bothered to attend my graduation felt like salt in an open wound. Derek stepped forward, his expression contrite. "Thank God you got here, sis. The little man has been asking for you non-stop." Something in his casual tone, the ease with which he acted as if this were just a normal family gathering rather than the culmination of a profound betrayal, snapped what remained of my composure. Thank God I got here, I repeated, my voice dangerously quiet. As opposed to where I was before graduating alone, while my entire family enjoyed a barbecue, an uncomfortable silence fell over the small space. Nathan shot me. A warning look silently pleading for me to not do this here. Not now. But 5 years of suppressed exhaustion, frustration, and hurt had reached a boiling point. I just spent the most important day of my professional life completely alone. I continued, my voice trembling but clear. No husband, no children, no parents, not even a single text message of congratulations, because a barbecue and a pool party were more important than 5 years of sacrifice and hard work. Alicia, my father began, his tone placating. This is hardly the time or place. When would be a better time, Dad? I asked, tears threatening again. When I am back to being invisible? When I am back to being the responsible one who never gets acknowledged? When I am back to putting everyone else first while none of you can spare a single afternoon for me? My mother looked genuinely confused. Honey, we did not realize it meant this much to you. It is just a ceremony. Just a ceremony, I repeated hollowly. Just like it is just a degree. Just an accomplishment. Just my life. Derek, clearly uncomfortable with the tension, attempted to deflect. Look, what matters now is that Ethan is going to be okay. This was an emergency situation. And if there had not been an emergency, I challenged him. Would any of you have regretted missing my graduation? Would you have even thought about me at all today? The silence that followed was answer enough. Nathan stepped forward, placing a hand on my arm. Alicia, you are upset and you have every right to be. But Ethan needs calm right now. We can discuss this later. I looked at my son, who was watching the adult drama unfold with wide, anxious eyes. Sophia stood beside him, chewing her lip nervously. They did not deserve to witness this, to be caught in the crossfire of adult resentments. You are right, I conceded, taking a deep breath. Ethan needs us to focus on him right now. I turned my attention fully to my son, asking him about the doctor's examination, making sure he understood what would happen next with the casting process. I kept my voice steady and reassuring, compartmentalizing my hurt as I had done countless times before. When the nurse came to take Ethan for casting, I volunteered to accompany him, needing a break from the suffocating presence of everyone else. As we walked down the hallway, Ethan leaning slightly against me, he spoke softly. I am sorry I missed your graduation, Mom. I really wanted to go to the party and Dad said it would be okay. I swallowed hard. It is not your fault, sweetie. Adults made those decisions, not you. But you were sad. Yes, I admitted, seeing no point in lying to him. I am sad, but I am also very proud of myself, and I hope someday you will understand why today was important. He nodded solemnly, his young face contemplative in a way that made him look suddenly older. I am proud of you too, Mom. Even if I did not see you get your diploma thing. His simple words were the first genuine recognition I had received all day, and they meant more coming from him than they would have from anyone else. After Ethan's arm was properly cast, we returned to find the emergency room bay empty, except for Nathan, who explained that my parents and Derek had gone to get coffee in the cafeteria. Sophia had accompanied them, apparently more interested in the hospital vending machines than in her brother's medical procedure. The doctor says we can take him home, Nathan said, handing me the discharge paperwork. He has a prescription for pain medication that we need to fill. I nodded mechanically, still operating in mother mode, prioritizing Ethan's needs above everything else. I will take him home. You can pick up the prescription. Alicia, Nathan began hesitantly about today. Not now. I cut him off. Not in front of Ethan. Just then my phone rang. It was Linda, my coworker, who had promised to attend the graduation ceremony to support me. Alicia, where are you? I have been looking everywhere. I thought we were meeting by the fountain after the ceremony. I had completely forgotten our arrangement in the chaos of the emergency. Linda, I am so sorry. I am at Memorial Hospital. Ethan had an accident. Oh my God. Is he okay? Her concern was immediate and genuine. A broken arm. We are about to head home. Do you need anything? Company food? Someone to pick up prescriptions? Her thoughtful offers, in stark contrast to my family's behavior, brought a lump to my throat. Actually, would you mind coming over later? I could use a friend right now. Of course. I will bring dinner. Text me your address. After ending the call, I noticed Nathan watching me with an odd expression. Who is that? He asked. Linda, from work. She came to my graduation since no one else did, I replied pointedly. She is bringing dinner later. Before he could respond, my parents and Derek returned with Sophia, all carrying hospital cafeteria, coffees, and snacks. My mother immediately fussed over Ethan's new blue cast while my father asked about follow-up appointments. Derek hung back, uncharacteristically subdued. We are taking Ethan home now, I announced to the group. He needs rest. We will come with you, my mother declared. You will need help with dinner and getting him settled. No, I said, firmly surprising even myself with the forcefulness of my response. Thank you, but no. Linda is bringing dinner, and I can manage my own son. The stunned silence that followed gave me a small vindictive satisfaction. But we came all this way, my father protested. And we were planning to stay until tomorrow. You can go back to Derek's, I suggested coolly. I am sure the barbecue is still going on. I need some space right now. Derek looked like he might object but thought better of it. My mother appeared genuinely hurt, but for once, I could not bring myself to accommodate her feelings at the expense of my own. We parted awkwardly in the hospital parking lot with promises to call tomorrow and check on Ethan. Nathan drove our car with Ethan carefully secured in the back seat. And Sophia, unusually quiet beside her brother. I stared out the passenger window physically and emotionally exhausted. At home, I helped Ethan get comfortable on the living room couch with pillows propping up his arm and his favorite television show playing. Sophia retreated to her room, clearly sensing the tension between her parents. Nathan hovered uncertainly, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. I am going to change, I said, gesturing to my graduation outfit that I was still wearing. Then we need to talk. Upstairs, I peeled off the navy blue dress that should have been associated with triumph, but now felt like a costume from a failed performance. I put on comfortable clothes, washed the smeared makeup from my face, and took several deep breaths before returning downstairs. Nathan was in the kitchen mechanically unpacking the prescription bag from the pharmacy. He looked up when I entered. Alicia, I know you were angry, he began. Angry does not begin to cover it, I replied, keeping my voice low so the kids would not hear. I feel betrayed, Nathan, by you most of all. He had the decency to look ashamed. I made a mistake. I thought the kids would have more fun at the barbecue, and I did not realize how important the ceremony was to you. How could you not realize I have been talking about it for months? I specifically asked you to promise you would be there, all of you. I know, and I am sorry. When Derek invited us, the kids got so excited and it seemed like a harmless compromise at the time. A compromise implies both parties agree, I said bitterly. You made a unilateral decision to prioritize fun over supporting me. Nathan leaned against the counter, running a hand through his hair. You are right. I screwed up badly. But does one mistake erase 12 years of marriage? 5 years of me supporting you through your degree? Supporting me? I repeated incredulously. You complained constantly about my absence. You made me feel guilty for studying. You took the kids to events without even trying to include me. And then on the one day I needed you to show up for me, you chose my brother's party instead. That is not fair, he protested. I have been juggling work and childcare and house maintenance while you were in class 3 nights a week. I have been supportive in ways you do not even see. And I have been working full-time while studying nights and weekends for 5 years to build a better future for our family, I countered. We have both made sacrifices, Nathan. The difference is that I would never ever have missed an important milestone. The truth of that statement hung between us. Nathan knew I was right. For all his complaints about my absence, I had always shown up for his important moments, rearranging my study schedule, missing classes if necessary. What do you want me to do? He asked finally. How do I fix this? I shook my head slowly. I do not know if you can fix it immediately. I need time to think about what this means for us, about whether I can trust you to value me and my accomplishments. Are you saying you want a separation? Alarm crept into his voice. No, I clarified. I'm saying I need space to process what happened today. I am going to stay at the hotel I booked for my parents just for a week. I need to clear my head. A week, Alicia, be reasonable. Ethan has a broken arm. He needs his mother. Ethan has a father who apparently is perfectly capable of making decisions without consulting me, I replied sharply. He will be fine for a few days with you in charge. I will check in on him daily and come back if there are any complications. Nathan looked like he wanted to argue further, but seemed to realize he was in no position to deny me this request. When will you leave? After Linda brings dinner and I explain things to the kids, I will pack tonight and leave in the morning. As if on cue, the doorbell rang announcing Linda's arrival. She brought not only dinner as promised, but also a graduation gift, a beautiful leather portfolio embossed with my initials, and a card signed by several co-workers. We are so proud of you, she said, hugging me tightly. You worked so hard for this. Her simple acknowledgement brought fresh tears to my eyes. This was all I had wanted from my family. This basic recognition of my achievement. After dinner, while Linda helped Nathan clear the dishes, I sat with both children to explain my temporary absence. I reassured Ethan that I would check on him every day and that I was not leaving because of his accident. I just need some quiet time to think, I told them. Sometimes adults need space just like you do when you get overwhelmed. Sophia, more perceptive than I had given her credit for, asked directly, Is this because we missed your graduation? Partly, I admitted, not wanting to lie to them. I was very hurt by that, but this is more about me needing to figure out what I want going forward. It is not a punishment for anyone. It is just something I need. To my surprise, both children accepted this explanation with minimal protest. Perhaps they sensed the depth of my hurt, or perhaps they were simply exhausted by the day's events. Either way, they hugged me goodnight with extra fierceness as if already missing me. The next morning, I packed a small suitcase and drove to the downtown hotel, checking into the room I had originally reserved for my parents. The irony was not lost on me. As I settled into the quiet space, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. For the first time in years, I had put my own needs first. The guilt I had expected to feel was surprisingly absent, replaced by a newfound sense of self-respect. Over the next few days, I received a flurry of apologetic texts and calls. My parents left a tearful voicemail admitting they had been thoughtless. Derek sent an elaborate flower arrangement to the hotel with a card acknowledging his selfishness. Nathan called every evening, his tone increasingly desperate as he realized I was serious about this time apart. I spent the week reflecting on my relationships, my career goals, and what I wanted from the next phase of my life. I visited Ethan daily, bringing small gifts and helping him adapt to one-armed living. I had lunch with Sophia at her school, reassuring her that family challenges were normal and resolvable. I spoke with my boss about the senior analyst position which had been unofficially offered to me upon completion of my degree. By the end of the week, I had reached several important conclusions. My family's behavior had revealed a painful truth about how they valued my contributions and aspirations, but it had also given me clarity about my own worth and the boundaries I needed to establish going forward. When I finally returned home, I was ready for the difficult conversations that would reshape our family dynamics. 1 week after my graduation ceremony, I drove home from the hotel with a sense of purpose I had not felt in years. The time alone had been transformative, allowing me to process my hurt without the constant pressure to forgive prematurely for the sake of family harmony. Nathan was waiting for me on the front porch, a tentative smile on his face. He helped carry my suitcase inside, where the house was surprisingly clean and orderly. I later learned he had hired a cleaning service, a gesture that acknowledged how much domestic labor I typically shouldered alongside my other responsibilities. "The kids are at school," he said. "I thought we should talk privately first." We sat at the kitchen table, the scene of countless family meals and homework sessions. The familiar setting underscored how much had changed in just 1 week. "I have been thinking a lot about us," Nathan began. "About how I have taken you for granted, about how I failed to support you when it mattered most." I nodded, appreciating his directness. "I have been thinking too about what I need from this marriage going forward." "Tell me," he said, and for perhaps the first time in years, he seemed genuinely ready to listen. "I need respect for my accomplishments, not just lip service. I need a true partner who values my goals as much as his own and the children's. I need to stop being the default parent, the default housekeeper, the one whose needs always come last." Nathan did not become defensive as he might have before. Instead, he acknowledged the truth in my words. "You deserve all of that. I see now how I have been putting you last even while complaining about your absence. It was unfair and hypocritical." We talked for hours, more honestly than we had in years. Nathan revealed his own insecurities about my educational advancement, fearing I would outgrow him professionally. I shared my resentment over bearing the mental load of family management while pursuing my degree. We discussed practical changes like hiring occasional help with housework and creating a fair division of parenting responsibilities. When the children returned from school, we had a family meeting. Ethan, his cast now decorated with colorful signatures from classmates, sat solemnly as we explained that we were working through some challenges, but were committed to being stronger as a family. "Does this mean you are staying, Mom?" Sophia asked, her voice small. "Yes," I assured her, "but it also means some things will be different. I will be starting a new position at work soon with more responsibility, and everyone in this family needs to contribute more at home." To my surprise, both children readily agreed. Ethan volunteered to take over lawn mowing duties once his arm healed, while Sophia offered to be responsible for laundry sorting. They seemed almost relieved to have concrete ways to help maintain our household. Over the next few days, I had similarly forthright conversations with my parents and Derek. I invited them over individually, not wanting to feel outnumbered during these difficult discussions. My parents arrived first, bearing gifts and apologies. My mother handed me a card containing a substantial check, clearly hoping to buy forgiveness. I returned it to her gently but firmly. "This is not about money," I explained. "This is about recognizing a pattern that has existed my entire life. Derek's events always take priority. His achievements are celebrated, while mine are minimized." My father looked genuinely surprised. "We had no idea you felt this way, Alicia." "That is part of the problem," I replied. "You never asked. You never noticed." The conversation was uncomfortable but necessary. I did not demand dramatic promises or tearful apologies. Instead, I established clear boundaries for our relationship moving forward. I would no longer accept last-minute cancellations or secondary status in family priorities. I would no longer exhaust myself trying to earn approval that was freely given to my brother. Derek's visit was equally revealing. Without the buffer of our parents or my children, he was forced to confront his role in the family dynamic. "I never intentionally tried to overshadow you," he insisted. "Intent does not erase impact," I countered. "Your barbecue could have been scheduled for any weekend. You chose my graduation day then refused to change it." To his credit, Derek did not make excuses. "You're right. I have been selfish. I think I have gotten used to being the center of attention in this family." We reached an understanding that would require ongoing effort to maintain. I did not expect decades of patterns to change overnight, but I was no longer willing to accept being an afterthought in my own family story. The weeks that followed brought gradual healing. Ethan's arm mended steadily, a visible reminder of how resilience can follow injury. My promotion to senior analyst came through complete with a significant salary increase and a private office. The extra income allowed us to hire a weekly cleaning service, relieving some of the domestic burden that had contributed to my exhaustion. Nathan followed through on his promises, taking on more parenting responsibilities, and making a point to celebrate my professional achievements publicly. The children, watching their parents model new behaviors, began showing more appreciation for my contributions both at work and at home. Perhaps the most meaningful gesture came a month after graduation when Derek organized a small surprise party specifically to celebrate my master's degree. He invited my close friends and colleagues, ordered a cake decorated with my university's colors, and gave a speech acknowledging my determination and intelligence. My parents attended, bringing a framed professional photograph of me in my graduation regalia that they had commissioned from the university's photographer. It was a lovely evening, but its significance went beyond the celebration itself. It represented a shift in how my family perceived my accomplishments, a recognition that my milestones deserved the same attention and respect as anyone else's. As I prepared to hang my diploma in my new office, I reflected on the unexpected journey that had followed my graduation day. What should have been a simple celebration had instead become a catalyst for profound change in my most important relationships. I had learned that sometimes the greatest gift of education is not the degree itself, but the self-knowledge that comes with it. I had learned that standing up for myself did not mean losing my family, but rather creating healthier connections based on mutual respect. I had learned that setting boundaries, though initially painful, ultimately allows for more authentic relationships. Most importantly, I had learned that my worth was not determined by others' recognition, but by my own sense of accomplishment and integrity. The empty seats at my graduation had initially felt like rejection, but they had ultimately led to a fuller understanding of my own value and the courage to demand that others recognize it too. Sometimes the deepest wounds lead to the most significant growth. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself with family members who took you for granted? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments below, and do not forget to like and subscribe for more stories about navigating family dynamics and finding your voice. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember that your achievements deserve celebration, even if you have to be your own biggest cheerleader sometimes.